All right, welcome. Today we're diving deep into a really ancient spiritual practice known as Gayatri Savana. We're going to break down the philosophy, the practical steps, and really what it's all about based on the source material. So let's get right into it. So, what's the big problem that this practice is trying to solve? Well, according to the source, it's not what you might think. It's a modern spiritual crisis, a crisis of faith. It's even called the great demon of our age, and that idea really sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. So, here's our roadmap for this journey. We'll start with a basic introduction to the practice, then get into the nitty-gritty of preparation and worship. After that, we'll explore the heart of it all, the Gayatri Mantra. We'll cover the rules you need to know, and then we'll circle back to see how this all comes together to tackle that crisis of faith.
Okay, let's kick things off with our first section, a proper introduction to Gayatri Upasana. The goal here is to understand that this is way more than just a set of rituals. It's a direct method for attracting divine wisdom into your life.
So, what is Gayatri Upasana at its core? The source calls it a proven process for both attracting and holding on to divine wisdom. This isn't some vague concept. We're talking about developing specific qualities, foresight, so you can see ahead, discernment, so you can make wise choices, and that inner strength to actually stick to the right path. It's really a framework for some serious personal growth. All right, let's get practical. Section 2 is all about pre-practice preparation. This is about creating the right conditions inside yourself, in your body, your mind, and your spirit, before you even think about starting the main practice. Preparation starts with a really simple act called achaman. You're literally just taking 3 small sips of water, but the magic is in the intention. As you can see, each sip is a symbolic cleansing. The first is for the purity of your speech, the second for your mind, and the third is for that deep inner part of you. It's a very conscious way to wash the slate clean. Next up is something called shikavandan. The shika, which is that small tuft of hair, is described so beautifully here as a flag on the fort of the head. What a great image, right? It acts as a symbol of your cultural identity and, more importantly, a sort of antenna for divine thoughts, reminding you to keep your mind aimed high. Now we get to something you've probably heard of, pranayama, which is all about regulating your breath. The mechanics are very specific. You start with purak, a slow inhale. Then you do anta kumbhak, where you hold that breath inside. That's followed by rechak, a slow exhale. And finally, bahya kumbhak, holding the breath out. That's one full, powerful cycle. But listen, the mechanics are only half the story. This is where it goes from just a breathing exercise to something deeply spiritual. It's all about the intention, or bhavana. You're not just breathing in air. You're visualizing inhaling cosmic life force. When you hold your breath, you imagine absorbing divinity into every single cell. As you exhale, you're releasing all the negativity. And in that final pause, you're slamming the door shut so it can't come back. It's like a complete spiritual reset with every single breath. So, once you've prepared your inner world, the practice brings in some external elements. In our third section, we're going to look at the worship of divine symbols. And trust me, these aren't just random objects. They are absolutely packed with meaning. Take the kalash, the water pot. On the surface, yeah, it's a pot. But symbolically, it represents the entire cosmos. It stands for peace, for creation, and it embodies this amazing idea that all the divine forces in the universe can be unified in one single place. And it's the same with the deepa, the lamp. It's not just there to provide light. It symbolizes the supreme light of knowledge, that universal consciousness that this philosophy says is the source of all physical matter. So when you light the lamp, you're doing more than just pushing back darkness. You're honoring the ultimate source of everything. And now, we've arrived at the very heart of the practice. Section 4 is all about the power of the Gayatri Mantra. This is where we get into the incredible consciousness and energy that this mantra is said to channel. So we have to ask the big question, what exactly is Gayatri? The source material makes a really important distinction here, and it's totally crucial for understanding where its power comes from. Okay, check this out. It's like 2 sides of the same cosmic coin. On one side, you have Gayatri. That's the subtle, conscious, inner energy. It works inside you as a righteous intellect, or sadbuddhi. On the other side, you have Savitri. That's its physical twin, the gross, material energy we see as the power of the sun. So, while Savitri can bring you material prosperity, Gayatri is what cultivates that inner divinity and soul force. So, what's the payoff? If you commit to this practice, what actually happens? Well, the source lists some pretty profound benefits. It's said to awaken your discernment and foresight. It develops an unwavering faith in what's called Atmabal, or soul force. It purifies you from the inside out, points your mind toward truth, and ultimately equips you to better help yourself and everyone around you. Of course, achieving effects like those requires real discipline. And that brings us to Section 5, the essential rules of practice. Now, I want you to think of these less as rigid restrictions and more as guidelines for creating the absolute best conditions for success. Believe it or not, this source text actually lists 32 distinct rules. Now don't worry, we're not going to go through every single one. We can boil them all down into a few core principles that really capture the spirit of the practice. First up, we have the principles of purity and place. This is all about your physical setup. It's pretty straightforward. Be clean, wear clean clothes, find a quiet, peaceful spot. The source also makes a really interesting point. Don't sit on the bare ground because it's believed your body's energy can just drain away. And of course, always keep your spine straight. Next are the principles of method and consistency. Basically, the how and the when. The source recommends using a specific kind of rosary, or mala, and chanting at the same time every day, ideally before dawn. But the thing it stresses the most is unwavering focus and faith. You have to practice every single day. That continuity is absolutely essential. And finally, there are the principles of lifestyle. See, this isn't something you just do for 20 minutes and then forget about. It's meant to extend into your daily life. That means eating a pure or sattvic diet and steering clear of things like intoxicants or negative habits like gossip and anger. The core idea is simple. Your external life has to support your internal work. And this brings us full circle right back to where we started, our final section, the solution to the faith crisis. How does this disciplined, detailed practice actually fix that great demon of our modern age? And here it is. The solution presented in the source material is powerful. It states that the only thing strong enough to overcome all our modern doubt is something called Ritambhara Prajna, which is basically a brilliant, truth-bearing intuition. And the practice of Gayatri Sadhana is positioned as the fundamental way to cultivate this power, making it the ultimate answer to that crisis of faith. So, we've walked this entire path together, from the problem of a faith crisis through the steps of purification, breathing, and worship, all the way to the rules that guide the practice. The source has laid out a complete roadmap. So we're left with one final, and I think very empowering question. Now that the path has been illuminated, how will you begin your journey toward inner wisdom?